Bună seara! Bine ați venit la FILIT! Bine ați venit la cea de-a patra întâlnire din cadrul serilor FILIT, aici la Teatrul Național Vasile Alecsandri din Iași. O seară în care o veți cunoaște pe Veronica Roth, scriitoare americană care la doar 22 de ani a cucerit inimile adolescenților din întreaga lume, dar și a cinefililor, prin seria Divergent. Veronica se află în culise și cred că e nerăbdătoare să vină la întâlnirea cu voi și cred că ar prinde bine niște aplauze. Mulțumesc! FILIT, Festivalul Internațional de Literatură și Traducere Iași, este un proiect cultural finanțat de Consiliul Județean Iași prin Muzeul Național al Literaturii Române. Această a șasea ediție se bucură de înaltul patronaj al reprezentanței Comisiei Europene, cu sprijinul Primăriei Municipiului Iași, Asociația Patrimoniu pentru Comunitate și Inspectoratul Școlar Județean Iași. Partenerii principali ai FILIT sunt BCR, SCC și Cotnari. Parteneri Palace Mall, La Costa, Aqua Carpatica, Casa Auto, Julius Main, Biblioteca Județeană Gheorghe Asachi, Institutul Francez din Iași, Mob Expert, Cărturești, Universitatea Alexandru Ioan Cuza din Iași, Alecart, Institutul Cultural Român, Librarium, Clubul Logos, Memorialul Ipotești, Centrul Cultural German, Norla, Palatul Copiilor Iași, Setcom Libris, Tatratea, City ID, Complexul Muzeal Moldova, Institutul Cervantes, Mamprenoare și Pro-Helveția. Mulțumim Sărusii Palace Mall pentru vestimentația prezentatorului, adică a mea. Toți acești parteneri au nevoie de aplauzele dumneavoastră. Mulțumesc! Editurile partenere ale ediției a șasea FILIT, foarte importante în ceea ce se întâmplă aici, sunt Polirom, Litera, Corint, Baroc Books and Arts, Curtea Veche, Nemira, Tandem Media, Tracus Arte, Casa Cărții de Știință, Școala Ardeleană, Pandora M, 3, Meteor Press, Editura All, Univers, Humanitas și Casa de Editură Max Blecher. Aplauze din nou, vă rog! Localurile partenere din Iași, foarte importante, Acaju, Beer Zone, cafeneaua noastră, cafeneaua veche, Cuib, Fica, Iasiro, La Bază, Meru, Oditi, Hala Fix, Teos Cafe, Trampes, Traz și Nu, Dopopoco și Petru. Partenerii media sunt Scena Nouă, Radio France International România, Courrier International, Radio România Cultural, Bucaholic.ro, Semne Bune, Sub 25, TVR Iași, Observator Cultural. Încă o dată aplauze, vă mulțumesc! Le mulțumim și noi tuturor acestor parteneri și sponsori. E important să fie alături de FILIT aici la Iași, pentru ca toate lucrurile să fie bine. Și au fost foarte bine până în acest moment. FILIT înseamnă literatură pentru toată lumea. În această seară sunt bucuros să vă prezint, în numele Festivalului Internațional de Literatură și Traducere, un alt invitat de marcă al acestei ediții cu numărul 6, care se întâmplă la Iași. Veronica Roth, autoarea trilogiei Divergent, numărul 1 în topul New York Times al celor mai bine vânduți autori, cu 32 de milioane de cărți pentru seria care cuprinde Divergent, Insurgent și Experiment. Veronica a cedat drepturile de ecranizare înainte de a termina primul volum. Avea 22 de ani pe atunci, iar trilogia Divergent a fost adaptată într-o serie de filme, după cum bine știți, cu actorii Shailene Woodley, Theo James și Kate Winslet în rolurile principale. Ea e și coproducătoare a acestor filme care s-au bucurat de un succes imens, cucerind inimile a milioane de fani din întreaga lume. Încasări, milioane de dolari, dar și numeroase premii și nominalizări. Un alt volum al autoarei, Carved Marc, Pecetea morții în limba română, publicat în ianuarie 2017, a intrat direct pe locul întâi în lista New York Times a celor mai bine vândute cărți, rămânând în această poziție vreme de 18 săptămâni. Și este o schimbare totală de perspectivă, în care scriitoarea renunță la distopie și universuri alternative pentru a trata problema destinului într-o lume cu totul nouă. În același timp, despre carte s-a spus că e o punte între literatura pentru tineri și pentru cei mai puțin tineri. Cumpăna Destinelor, cum se numește cea de-a doua parte a seriei Pe cetea morții, a debutat de asemenea pe primul loc în lista New York Times și continuă să atragă un număr uriaș de cititori. Veronica Roth s-a născut pe 19 august 1988 la New York, a crescut într-o suburbie a orașului Chicago și a debutat, așa cum v-am mai spus, la 22 de ani, când a scris primul volum din Divergent, care avea să o facă celebru. Pe atunci urma cursurile Universității Northwestern, unde a absolvit cu magna cum laude. E preocupată de mitologie și teologie, iar în 2011, nu știu dacă știați asta, a locuit timp de 5 luni la Cluj-Napoca, împreună cu soțul său. Știe câteva cuvinte în limba română și spune că s-a inspirat din maghiară, o limbă care se aude acolo la Cluj, atunci când a imaginat o limbă nouă pentru șoteh. Știți ce e asta? Populația de pe planeta Urec, din seria Carte de Marc. Și pentru că aflați și despre comunismul românesc, acolo la Cluj, a spus într-un interviu că și-ar dori să scrie o carte pentru oameni mari de această dată, a cărei acțiune să se desfășoare în România anilor 80. La capitolul Distopii am stat și încă mai stăm bine. Cărțile Veronica Roth au primit mai mulți ani la rând premiul... Mulțumesc! Cărțile Veronicăi au primit mai mulți ani la rând Goodreads Choice pentru cea mai bună carte fantasy și science fiction pentru tineri. Volumele sunt publicate în România la editura Corint, în colecția Leda Edge. Traducători au fost pentru primul volum din Divergent Adrian Deliu, iar celelalte sunt traduse de Shauki Al-Garib, un traducător de 30 de ani de aici din Iași, care e în sală. Îl salut! Bravo! Am vorbit cam mult, mă opresc aici. Trebuie să vă mai spun un lucru foarte important. La final, autografe. Toată lumea care dorește autograf de la Veronica va ieși din sală, îi va căuta pe voluntarii FILIT, îi recunoașteți foarte ușor, au ceva verde la gât. Ei vă vor da niște cartonașe cu numere de ordine, vă înscrieți pe o listă, după care vă veți întoarce aici în sală. Veronica va da autografe pe scenă, dar e neapărat, dacă vreți autograf de la ea, să mergeți să luați acele cartonașe. Și o singură carte, pentru că va fi o noapte grea pentru ea. O noapte grea va fi și pentru gazda acestei serii, un vechi prieten al FILIT, Iulian Tănase, scriitor, jurnalist și tată. Tatăl lui Sasha și al Adorei. Doamnelor și domnilor, Veronica Roth, la FILIT 2018. Wow!
Bună seara!
Bună seara!
Mulțumesc!
Cu plăcere! We're just going through all of the words I know. We've almost run out.
Not really.
Uh-oh. What are you planning?
Before starting to talk about the books, fame and fortune and everything that goes with it, let's count together in Romanian from 1 to 10.
Okay, okay.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wonderful. Veronica, do you like being on stage?
Yes, no, I'm terrified. But
Why yes, why no? Why yes, why no?
oh, yes, I get a lot of energy from it. It's exciting. All of you are here. It's amazing. But no, it's terrifying. So you know.
I know. I know that feeling. Have you read your books?
Have I read them?
Yeah.
In
Have you read your
Romanian?
books? Not in English.
No, yes.
Printed editions. Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you like your books?
Do I like them? Yes? No? After you write something, it's sometimes you're most critical of it, you know? So you start to hate parts of them and then you still love them. Like, yeah.
We'll talk about writing, about your writing in particular. There are many reasons why writers write. I have some quotes. Edward Albee says, "I write to find out what I'm thinking about." Franz Kafka says, "A book should serve as the axe for the frozen sea within us." And Somerset Maugham, "We do not write because we want, we write because we must." And my favorite one is a quote from Graham Greene. He says, "Writing is a form of therapy. Sometimes I wonder how all those who do not write, compose, or paint can manage to escape the madness, the melancholia, the panic fear which is inherent in the human situation." Why do you write, Veronica?
Oh, I feel like a little bit of all of those reasons, maybe. I don't feel like I can't not do it. I always loved it more than I loved to do anything else.
Could you live without writing?
I don't think so. I have never tried. Yeah, even when I was a child, I liked to play pretend. Before I knew that I could write stories, that's what I did. Just by myself, creating stories and worlds and all of those things. So, but then I started writing when I was 10 or 11, and I never stopped. So, I don't know, yeah. If no one was reading, I would still be writing, I think.
So you've been writing since you were 10?
Yeah.
So you've been writing for 20 years?
20 years, whoa. I was just
Too many?
You're just trying to make me feel old. Is that your plan?
But many writers talk about a certain desperate need for writing. Have you ever experienced such a need?
Yeah, so do you know the term hangry? You know, when someone's hungry and they get angry? Well, I have that with...
Hungry for writing.
Yeah, sort of, like if I don't do it for a while, I'm in a very bad mood. And my husband has started to know like what needs to be done in this situation. Just go, get away. Please do. Please get some writing done. So yeah, I think I do need to. But I also, like most writers, hate it sometimes and really don't. Like I'll try anything to avoid it. So I don't know if you experience that in your writing. It's just like, I would rather do anything than sit down and do this.
Yeah, sometimes you need some breaks, of course, because it's exhausting to write all the time, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you like my socks?
I love your socks.
I borrowed them from Marius Kivu.
Yeah?
Thank you, Marius.
He had birds yesterday, so.
Yeah.
But I like the dots.
I have 2 penguins.
Oh, yeah?
How is your life different than you expected right now?
Oh, well, I thought, I didn't think I would ever really be an author. I thought maybe eventually I would be an author, but that it would take a long time. So I thought I would be working as a copy editor. Do you know? Yeah. So correcting grammar and punctuation. That's what I did before. Then the brief period before I was published, because I got published so young, that's what I was doing. So my plan was to do that for work and then write on the side. So that's different, yeah. I didn't think I would get to travel so much, or that I would get to write as a job. That wasn't, or at least as my whole job. I did not think I would have met a bunch of famous people on a movie set, so that was totally beyond my expectations. Yeah, everything's different than I thought. I didn't, it would have been delusional to expect something like this to happen with your first book. That's absurd. So it's been absurd.
But you had huge success with your first book from Divergent series, Divergent, Insurgent and Allegiant. Can an early huge success be dangerous for an author?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
For you it was?
For me, dangerous, I don't know.
You have to manage your success, your personal success.
I think it maybe brings something out of you that it was already there, so it depends on what's there. What it brought out of me was extreme anxiety. So I was, it made me very worried all the time, and it was hard to deal with that for a little while. But I also had the experience where every time that something really big would happen, something very humbling would happen immediately afterward. So, like when I found out about the Divergent book deal, I turned around and I was right by some dumpsters, like big garbage piles behind my building. So it was like the first thing I smelled was trash. It's like, remember that. But the best was I had just gotten a puppy, my little fluffy dog, and Insurgent, my second book, hit the bestseller list, the New York Times bestseller list, and I got the call, and I hugged my husband, and I turned around, and the dog was peeing on the floor. So it's like, what was your first act as a bestseller? It's like cleaning the dog pee.
Insurgent was partly written in Cluj-Napoca.
It was, yeah. Not the first draft, but all of the revisions. So basically it was written, because it required so many revisions, yeah, basically written in Cluj.
How many fans all around the world do you think you have?
Oh, I don't know.
Never counted?
No. I don't think it's that helpful to know all of the exact numbers for things. I try to keep myself away from too much awareness because I think that's, as we said, a little dangerous. So better to just focus on the work and what's right in front of me. Like you guys.
But do you enjoy being famous?
I don't...
Do you?
Do I? No, yes.
Are you aware every second
No.
you're being Veronica Roth who had a lot of success?
With writers, like, you don't usually know what they look like, so it's not a kind of public figure where people recognize you all the time. So no, mostly I don't think about it. And then sometimes I'll do an appearance like this and a couple people might recognize me or something, but it's not like, it's like, oh, you, like an old friend, kind of. So it's good. But, a writer is someone who wants to be alone for like a year, to write a book. So for you to have that tolerance for being alone all the time and then to have any amount of attention focused on you is very at odds with, I don't know, my natural disposition, I would say. So sometimes it's hard, but it's not something I would complain about, I guess, because it means lots of readers, and that's great. I don't know, mostly young people, which is very exciting. So.
How about the people who encouraged you the most to keep writing, to keep up the good work?
I think my mother was the first one, yeah. She was always just supportive of what I wanted to do with my time, so she never pushed us into me or my siblings into doing something we didn't want to do, and all she required of us was that we do our best in school, and behave reasonably well. So this seems reasonable. anyway, she was a little concerned about me because I spent
Why?
so much time alone.
So much time alone.
Yeah, she was like, "Don't you want to go?"
Your husband knows about your time spending alone.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
It's hard to be the husband of a famous writer.
You think?
I don't know.
He doesn't seem to find it
I don't
that
have
hard.
a husband.
Yeah. He is a very secure person, so it doesn't bother
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew him.
But yeah.
So let's get further. When did you start to dream of becoming a writer? Do you remember a certain moment when you realized you would be a writer? Or just starting to write, and no matter what?
I think I don't think about results very often. So I never articulated to myself or to anyone else that I wanted to become an author. I didn't even think about it. I thought about the work I was doing. It wasn't until university that I thought maybe I should try because they might pay me and then I could keep doing it. That was the only goal, is just to continue the cycle a little bit. So it's strange because I think some authors have this dream of seeing the book on the shelf or seeing someone reading it, but for me that's all good. It's like a bonus, but it's not the point. The point is to keep doing the writing. So what's best about what's happened is that I can keep doing it. Everything else is just...
But have you been surprised by the success of Divergent series?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, of course. That people are still reading it continues to be a shock to me. Not because I thought it was bad, but because there are so many books in the world, and some of them are truly amazing, and not very many people read them. So I thought, for sure, I'd be one of those, hopefully amazing, but probably not read by that many people. But then that's not what happened, so, which is great.
I have a little bit heavier question. What have you found out about yourself in the process of writing?
You mean
Some
like...
personal truth
Oh, boy.
or revelations?
I think something I didn't know before is that I have a lot of pride. So, when you get reviewed, as you do when a book comes out, it's a real blow to your pride. It humbles you. And I guess I didn't realize how much humbling I needed as a person. So that was a shocking discovery. It continues to happen. I keep discovering more deeper levels of pride that need to be addressed. I don't know. It's uncomfortable to realize that you might have a little bit of an ego, and think, oh, well, my work is the best. How could you say such a thing about it? And the worst is realizing that people are right about it when they're criticizing it. So, that's a terrible feeling. But I think maybe writers are masochistic in this way. They crave this painful experience because that's how you grow. Maybe, I believe that you grow through pain. Yeah, we did get dark a little bit here.
You dedicated your first book to your mother. While writing Divergent, what did you discover about your mother? Because I've noticed somewhere you said actually your mother was more powerful than you thought.
Yeah, well, I think this happens with a lot of people with their parents, I think. So you, for a long time, think of them only as they are to you, that they belong to you and that they aren't their own person. And then when you get older, you start to see that they're real, that they're a person that had a life before you and continues to have a life.
Surprise, yeah.
Despite you. And I started to realize that, I mean, you know, you get it in bits and pieces. So I really had a profound realization when I was, around when I was writing Divergent, that my mother had made very bold choices to protect us in my life, and that she had basically left everything behind and started over. She hadn't worked in a long time. She stayed home with the kids, and then my parents divorced, and she went back to work, and it was very difficult for her, and she lost a lot of friends doing this, because at that time, and still to a certain degree, divorce was perceived as this kind of shameful thing. So a lot of her friends just kind of stopped being her friends, but she did it because she had to. So I started to see her as this incredibly brave woman. And so for my whole life, she was this kind and loving figure, which she is. But really, what my mother is a very direct and aloof and slightly cold person who's very strong. So it's almost like she is two different people to me now. And when I wrote Divergent, I put that moment into the story because I thought it was so profound. It had been so profound for me.
And Beatrice prior mother's is your mother? Not really.
Probably close. Yeah. You know, she's a selfless person. She gives everything to her family. But deep down, she comes from, you know, a tough place. Dauntless, of course. So I think she's the only character that I ever felt like was based on someone real was Tris's mother.
Have you mirrored yourself in Beatrice prior?
Oh, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, no.
Not at all?
Maybe in little ways. I think all characters are, even the bad ones, maybe especially the bad ones, are modeled off of me in some way. But she's more what I wished I was when I was 16. I wanted to be this fearless and tough person, but I was not. I was a big softie. So still am, probably.
Let's talk a little bit about the Divergent Factions. Factions are societal divisions that classify citizens based on their aptitudes and values. There are 5 factions: Dauntless, the brave, Amity, the kind, Erudite, the intelligent, Abnegation, the selfless, and Candor, the honest. What's your favorite virtue?
My favorite? That's hard to say, because is it the one I just like the best, or the one I think is the most important, or, you know? So the most fun to write about was Dauntless. Obviously,
Dauntless, yes.
I spent the whole book there, you know. But I don't think it's maybe it's the most, no.
The courage is a vital virtue.
It is, but applied to the wrong thing, it becomes cruel.
Yeah.
So people I wouldn't call that real courage, but you know, people mistake courage for dominance or aggression. So it's a bit dangerous to me. The only virtue in the book that feels like it isn't dangerous is selflessness, except dangerous to the self, maybe, but not to others as much.
Are the Americans dauntless?
Are Americans dauntless?
The Americans? Yeah.
Oh, what are Americans?
Donald Trump is dauntless?
I don't know what he is.
Do you like Donald Trump?
No.
Not at all?
No. I think he goes out of his way not to be liked by people like me, so.
Let's make the literature great again.
I could get behind that slogan. That would be literature, yes.
Let's do it. I'd like to talk a little bit about your habits and rituals in writing. Do you write every day?
Do I write every day? No.
Why?
That's like the most common piece of advice writers give is to write every day. I don't do that. I write a lot for a while. I get into a cycle of writing a lot, and then I run out of energy, and I stop for weeks at a time sometimes. It's horrible. It's the worst feeling ever, but I just sometimes can't, and I need a break. And I'm not good at taking breaks. So I try to read in those times. So I go through cycles of reading and not reading, writing and not writing. But the worst is when I can't find anything to read that's catching my attention, and I also can't write, and then I don't know what to do. I usually play video games in those times.
As Stephen King said, if you want to write, you have to do two things, writing and reading, and living.
Yes, yes.
You have to be alive if you want to write.
You do?
How many hours a day do you write?
Well, when I'm in a cycle of writing a lot, I will write anywhere from 4 hours to 8 hours.
8 hours. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those days I really need a break from. That's a long day. But sometimes I get sucked into like usually near the end of a book, all I want to do is get to the exciting parts. So I will write a lot in one day, and then.
And how many pages a day?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think in pages because the program that I write in is called.
I write in a program.
Yeah. It's called Scrivener. It's like a special program for writers. But anyway, it doesn't tell you pages. It just tells you words, number of words. So. Number of words. Yeah. So.
What makes you happy the most as a writer?
I like revising. So I like fixing a draft that's already there. And I love that moment when you've seen this problem and this problem is bothering you, and then you suddenly understand how to fix it, and it's not just that you fixed the problem, but you've made something really wonderful happen on the page that you weren't planning. I love that feeling of surprise.
Planning for surprise. There is a chapter in that book, Planning for Surprise. You have to.
I have to read this book.
Yeah. I'll borrow you if you need it. Have you ever had a model to follow and even to imitate in writing?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Have you ever had a model?
Okay, a role model.
A writer as a model for you?
Well, when I was studying writing in school, that was our first year was spent reading short story writers and then imitating them. So you'd have to, read, of course, like Kevin Brockmeyer was the first one, and he writes these surreal kind of stories where strange things happen, but people don't treat them as strange in the story. So we had to, write a story like that with those qualities. And then the best one was Alice Munro. She's my favorite writer, I think. Read some Alice Munro. Anyway, so I learned, to imitate in school as an exercise. I think that's important because when you start, you usually imitate. So the first writing I ever did was Lord of the Rings, basically. they'd be like on a quest, and they'd be looking for an amulet instead of a ring, you know? It's just a transparent ripoff of Lord of the Rings. So I think this is like common for young writers. You look back at what you wrote and it's just a copy. But I think that's an important exercise, because only by doing something you feel like you know how to do can you then learn how to do something new.
You learn a lot when imitating. Of course, you learned.
Yeah.
You learn from the writers you love, actually.
Yeah, and you try to find your way into how they do it. Of course, you can't do it the way that they do it, but you learn.
Keep trying, yeah.
Yeah, you have to try.
Let's get back to Donald Trump.
Oh, no.
How would you react if Donald Trump called you and asked you to write a book about him?
Well, first of all, I would say, how did you get my number? It's
From
alarming.
Barack Obama.
Yeah, sure. None of these people have my number. Okay, to write a book about him? No.
About his life for $1 million.
No. When you write a book about something, you have to live in it for as long as it takes to finish, and I don't want to live there. It's a dark place.
White House is a dark place.
Yes. Sometimes, yes. Most of the time, I would say. Yeah.
You don't have a White House.
What?
A White House. Don't you have a White House in Chicago?
No.
No?
No. It's not the color of the house that's the problem for the White House. It's what's inside.
The color of people or people's hair. Orange House actually is the White House now.
The color of their insides.
Yeah. Yes. Inside is important. How did you like the movies based on your books? Because all the books from the Divergent series were made into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel lucky that they were made, because what a movie does basically is makes so many more people read your book because they suddenly know about it. There's no advertisement for a book like a movie. So no matter what, it was always going to be an amazing thing for my life and my books. So I try not to complain about them because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very happy they made them. But I liked the first one, and I was okay with the second one.
And the third one?
And the third one...
Allegiant.
I'm not convinced that was based on my book. Maybe it just had... They were on Mars, basically. Everything was red. It was like
a little bit too bad for your taste? A little bit too bad, the movie, for your taste? Or?
Well, so yeah, the changes would have been fine, but if they had been for the good of the story, but I don't think that they were, and I'm not sure what they were for exactly. So I think everyone just got into a mess and didn't know how to get out of it. It's basically my feeling about it, which I think is why they were supposed to do a part 2 of that movie, but then they didn't, and I think it's good that they didn't, because I'm not sure what would have happened. Where do we go from there? Exactly. So I think everyone did their best, and especially the crew, the people who built the sets and designed the costumes, and all of those people, like, they don't have anything to do with these story decisions that are being made, but they're doing very good work. So when I watch it, I try to think about that. The sets are amazing, and I think the actors did the best they could with what they had, and so I think there's a lot to appreciate about it, but it's not my favorite movie.
The first one is okay.
The first one's good.
It's good, yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun to watch. Yeah.
There is a long list of books made into movies. A lot of great books were made into movies. Gone with the Wind, Fight Club a lot, so
Yeah.
you're on this short list, actually, which is not quite short.
No, it's not that short.
Hunger Games were made into movies.
Yes, yeah. Those were good.
So which is good for the books, is good.
It is good, yeah. It makes people more aware of books and it motivates people to read. It seems like a net positive to me. Yeah, overall, it's good.
Vom lua și întrebări din public. Sunt voluntari FILIT care vor culege întrebările voastre. Nu trebuie să exagerați, să nu fie foarte multe întrebări. Și le vom strânge și vor ajunge aici. Cele mai bune vor fi citite și vor fi premiate cu un voucher de 30 de puncte pe care le puteți folosi la Casa FILIT, să ascultați niște scriitori citind. Mâine este ultima zi de FILIT. So back to you, Veronica. What is your idea of perfect happiness? It's we just entered the Proust questionnaire.
Oh, okay. Perfect happiness.
Perfect happiness.
I don't think about happiness a lot.
Apart from marriage.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do like that. But actually, I was just talking to him about this because neither of us prioritize happiness that much. I think we're happy together, but that's like a byproduct. I think we think about what's meaningful more than what's happy. So I don't know.
But while writing, you feel kind of happiness, no? You're happy when writing.
I do,
no?
but I think every emotion that's positive also has a kind of negative. So like the second you are happy, you're worried, right? So I don't know. I guess I think people are too focused on it.
Isn't important happiness? Maybe joy?
Joy. Joy. Contributing something meaningful to the world, learning something new, curiosity, discovery, those things are important. But happiness, just feeling this thing that will disappear.
Is too much happiness?
Maybe
for
it's. I read a translation of a play by a Romanian-Hungarian playwright, Andras Visky, and it's stories of the body, I think. And in it, one of the characters, Eva is her name, she says that happiness is a burden. And I think about this all the time. It seems right to me that the constant search for it is a burden. So put that burden down.
Have you had the moments when you were very happy?
Oh, yeah, certainly, yeah. But it was never the goal. It was, like even when I got married, we got married because we loved each other and because we thought we could make a good life together, a good life, and then hopefully a happy life. But if you think it's going to be happy all the time, then your marriage won't last, because it won't be, because you're two flawed people trying to make a go of it together, and you'll be colliding because you're different people. So I think, I try to have different expectations. Yeah.
Not great expectations.
No, I think great, not happy expectations.
What is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear?
Do you have some?
I have many fears, yeah. I wrote a whole book about facing them. It's right there. So the lighthearted answer to this is that I am terrified of bugs of all kinds. So when I have nightmares, they're always about infestations, so lots of bugs in my house, and I can't get rid of them. So I don't know what that says about me, but that's one of my great fears. But deeper fears, I don't know. I do have a real fear of being embarrassed. So.
Like right now?
I'm not embarrassed right now. Should I be embarrassed right now?
I was a little bit, but scared, not embarrassed.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's fine right now.
But really, when I first came to Romania, we lived for 5 months here, and I never left the apartment alone because I was so afraid of going out in public and not being able to speak Romanian and being American, you know, that I was afraid to talk to anyone or to do anything because I didn't want to be embarrassed. So 5 months of my life just staying inside when someone wasn't with me. That's not. That's how deep the fear of.
You know a little bit Romanian. Bună seara.
Bună seara. Yeah, but I can't say anything else.
Cu plăcere.
Cu plăcere.
Mulțumesc.
Yeah, I know what poftiți means. Because people say that to me a lot. Poftiți.
Poftiți, vă rugăm. Poftiți, intrați.
If you wander around a store looking a little confused, someone will always say, poftiți. Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah. We say, nu vorbim, which is we don't speak, but you guys know that, you're Romanian.
Which living person do you most admire?
Which living person do I most admire?
Except Donald Trump.
Oh, God. Don't even joke about that. It's been a rough week at home, so. Who do I most admire? Oh, do I be really disgusting and romantic? Because I think
Your husband.
Yeah, I admire him a lot.
Nelson. Hi.
Yeah, hi, wherever you are. He will never raise his hand or indicate where he is because he too is easily embarrassed. But he's a very patient person, very observant. He sees everything. He'll be in the middle of a conversation. He'll be like, "Did you see the hubcaps on that car that just drove by?" It's like, a car just drove by? I have no idea. Yeah, he's a good person. So.
And you got married very young.
Yes, from 22 years old.
Why?
Why?
Why not?
I don't know. We just didn't see a reason to delay when we were so sure. Which is young and foolish, I'm sure, but it seems to have worked. So I don't. If I had a child, I wouldn't maybe recommend getting married that young. But then, I guess there was no stopping us. So.
Good. What's your greatest extravagance?
My greatest extravagance? Travel,
If you
probably.
have any. Sorry?
Travel. Traveling. You know.
Traveling.
That's what I spend the most money on, I would say. Yeah. Or shoes.
Or socks?
Or socks. I do
Why
have
not?
Darth Vader socks.
Actually, no. I have one penguin here.
You have a penguin.
Yeah.
Well, that's
One
pretty
for
good.
each.
Yeah.
So, what's your current state of mind?
My current state of mind?
What's your current United States of mind?
United? Oh, I don't know. I'm currently like really wired, as you can probably tell, because there's a lot of you. Hello, but overall, I don't know. It's a weird time in our public lives. I think everywhere.
It's just a show.
Yeah.
You're not a writer right now.
Yeah.
You're a writer when writing.
You want me to
On
write
stage.
right now?
Yeah.
That would be very boring to watch.
No. It's not a show for public.
Yeah.
It's our personal show.
Mm-hmm.
What is the quality you most like in a man?
Most like in a man. Curiosity.
And Nelsonity.
Yeah.
From Nelson, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the problems that women have relating to men are that men seem to... I'm not talking about you, of course. You're very lovely. But that men seem to know... They think they know a lot of things, and they want to tell you what they know. And they usually know something that you might also know about, but they're going to tell you about it anyway. We call this mansplaining. Anyway, so what I find a lot when talking to men is I will finish a conversation and I'll realize they didn't ask any questions. So it's like, you're not curious at all? Okay, fine. But I think curiosity is a wonderful quality, so.
Let's be curious. What's the quality you most like in a woman?
Curiosity.
Again.
Yeah, I really do. I think people who are interested in the world are interesting.
Because you discover a lot when you're curious.
Yeah, and you develop empathy.
Yeah.
Because you
and
can't...
you care of the other. You care of the other when you're curious.
Yeah. Well, you learn how to care about them. Because you learn that they're a complicated person, just like you are. So you find something in common when you are curious.
Which words, if you have, or phrases, do you most overuse?
Oh boy, that's probably one of them.
Some cliches? Some cliches? Or...
Oh, cliche. Well, in writing, I know exactly what they are because they're always being edited out. And I'm always...
Ouch.
Out.
Ouch.
Ouch?
Out?
No, out. Out of the book, you know, kaput. So what I'm always saying in writing is where people are looking. So they're always glancing at something. So I overuse that word a lot. Or so-and-so looked at this person and looked, like, why is eye choreography the most important thing when I'm writing? I don't know. But in conversation, I, like most people in my generation, say like a lot. He was like, she was like, what? You know, I say that a lot. Not right now, because I'm trying to talk at a reasonable pace for the translators.
Like on Facebook.
Yes, like on Facebook.
Yeah, like is famous, this
Oh
word
yeah,
right
liking
now. Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I know, it's become a part of our vocabulary.
It's a question, what or who is the greatest love of your life? Well, it's clear. It's all clear.
But it's also writing, you know? Because I really don't enjoy other activities. I keep trying to find a hobby, you know, because it's important to do other things other than your job. But I give them all up because I don't enjoy them as much. It's an ongoing struggle.
Well, I have a silly question. It's not from Proust Questionnaire. If you have to choose between love, your husband, and writing.
Oh, this is a cruel question. No, you always choose people over things. Yeah, that's a rule I have.
Persons, human beings are more important than art, than writing, than painting.
Yeah, what are those things for,
if
not for people? Yes. So, yeah.
So, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I think I would be not anxious anymore, right? Wouldn't that be nice? No, I mean, a little bit is good, probably, but a lot makes you selfish. So I'd rather have less. But when you're anxious, you want, you know, you are trying to protect yourself from whatever you're afraid of. So you are in this survival mode where you will take anything you can get, and even at the expense of other people. So I find it's a bad quality, and I have it. So.
What do you consider your greatest achievement so far of your life?
Ooh, we have questions.
Oh my God.
Give you some time to read those, maybe.
You have text for a book, a whole
yeah,
book.
I'll
just publish them.
If you put them in a random order, it might be like a poem. Okay. I don't know. Should you read them? Should I read them? Okay.
If they're in English, so...
Yeah, these are the English ones. Okay. Should I answer your question first, though?
Yeah,
okay.
please.
I don't know, because you'd think it would be... I think it's finishing the first book I ever wrote. Because that was the point at which I realized it was possible for me to write books. And it required a great deal of focus and determination to do it that first time. And it took me 10 years to finish a book. So I kept writing bits and pieces and then throwing them away. And, that book is bad, and no one will ever read it. But it taught me a lot, and it got me started doing this. So I couldn't have done the rest of it without that. So I think it's probably the biggest achievement. It was the biggest personal achievement. It didn't matter. No one else had to read it, but for me, it was big. Yeah.
What do you most value in your friends, in people around you?
Ooh. Honesty, I think, probably. Or people who stick up for you, even when you're not there. This is a big quality that I cherish in people.
We have to talk a little bit about your favorite writers, because this is the question.
Okay. My favorite writers?
Yeah.
Well, I talked about Alice Munro already. I really love Marilyn Robinson also. She wrote the book Gilead, which is, I feel, probably a very American book.
Flannery O'Connor, Flannery O'Connor, you
yeah.
said in an interview.
I love her.
Yeah.
Wise Blood, especially.
Wise Blood.
Yeah. But as far as like sci-fi writers go, because to me there's different categories that I appreciate. So with Alice Munro and Marilyn Robinson, the stories are good and the characters are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but the writing itself is what draws me. But with science fiction, it's a little different. So the writing might also be excellent, but it takes a second place to ideas. Philip K. Dick is someone I admire a lot. Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune, is really wonderful. Of course, now I'm forgetting everyone. Oh, Lois Lowry. She wrote The Giver. So she writes for young people, but I think she writes a lot of things, but her books are beautiful and emotional, even the dystopian ones. And Madeleine L'Engle, too, writes for children, but some really complicated ideas in there and real.
I suppose you read a lot of dystopian works, books, because you feel comfortable in this frame of dystopian literature.
Yeah.
Sci-fi, dystopian, fantasy.
I do love sci-fi, yeah.
And Carve the Mark is a sci-fi.
It is.
Book, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned somewhere George Orwell,
1984. Yeah.
Brave New World.
Aldous Huxley, yeah. They're not like favorites in this warm way. They're like books I admire and I'm afraid of. Yeah.
I have to check these questions. So I would ask a new one, and I'll read while answering. You answering, I'll read.
Okay.
Sorry. Well, about heroes of fictions you read, do you have a favorite character?
Oh. It's hard to say. I feel somehow he's underappreciated, but I love Harry Potter. So, yeah. And like the character, you know, there's this wonderful quote at the end of the 7th book, which is probably different in Romanian, but I'm going to say it in English because that's the language I speak. But it's at the very end, Harry says he's kind of uses the resurrection stone to like summon the essence of his loved ones. And he says, and their presence was his courage and the reason that he kept putting one foot in front of the other. And it makes me cry every time, even just saying it, obviously. I just think he's really a good soul, so. And he's annoying sometimes, and he yells too much in the 5th book, but it's like he's a person, and it's like I grew up with him. So anyway, I do admire him as a character, yeah.
Have you met J.K. Rowling?
No.
No?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah. Probably not ever, that's fine.
Who are your heroes in real life?
In real life?
Do you have?
I don't know, this has never been a thing that I really think about that much. Not that I don't admire people, because I do, but I feel like my real heroes are people who maybe aren't...
Mentioned before your mom.
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
she is.
She is.
Yeah.
Like every mom.
Well, you know, some moms, maybe not heroes. Mine, sure, yes. But yeah, I admire people who speak up in the midst of real difficulty, when that's a very hard thing to do. And so I think that is a character that kind of, or a character trait that unites a lot of people who are heroes to me. So especially people who have like survived something difficult and then are called upon to speak about it, which has happened in politics at home recently. So I admire people with that bravery a lot.
Do you have regrets?
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 Oh,
I had a few, but then again...
Yeah. Nice. You're gonna sing? You want to sing
Frank
for us?
Sinatra now.
Yeah.
It's your show.
Yeah, I do, I guess. I wasn't very nice in high school. I wasn't like mean in a really scary way. I was just unpleasant to everyone who spoke to me. So I regret that a lot. I feel like there were good people around me, and I wasn't very nice to them, so I never got to know them. So usually what I regret is not being kind when the opportunity presents itself to me, which I try to do, but you know, no one can, really.
I read in an interview that one time you were very interested in ants.
Ants?
Ants? Do you still like ants?
Oh yeah, I think they're fascinating, yeah. Not in the way that John Franzen's interested in birds, I feel. But yeah, I think the way they communicate and how they have a hierarchy is fascinating. I think science is one of the things that inspires me the most when I'm...
You know, there are 1 million ants for every human.
Isn't that a terrifying thought? What if
We're millionaires in ants.
Everyone can have 1 million ants. If only we could decide they were currency. But yeah, I do get like obsessed with things for brief periods of time. So it was ants for a little while. I was really fascinated by North Korea for a while. So I read a lot of books about North Korea. And right now, and then recently I was reading declassified government documents. So like our government you know, we have a Freedom of Information Act thing that makes all of these old documents now available. You can request them and read them. So it's like the horrible experiments that the US government did in the 60s, which are called MK Ultras, like I won't explain it. But they also did investigations on UFOs, you know, like aliens. And that's very funny to read all of those very serious documents about this. So that's what I've been reading recently. It's really dark sometimes to learn what your government has been doing in the past, and then to think, what are they doing now? I don't know. But it's also like very amusing occasionally, the things that they will put money into. Yeah.
I started to read the questions from the public. You've inspired lots of people, including myself. How do you feel about the fact that you actually did something which others found so inspiring that they decided to change themselves, their lives into better?
Well, I feel good about it, yeah. My feeling when people talk to me like this is that people change themselves. Books don't change them, but...
With a little help.
Yeah. But to be the person who wrote a book that comes into a person's life at the right time and says the right thing to you know, jumpstart whatever is happening inside them is an honor. So, yeah, it's unexpected because I thought I could just write and that just writing for the sake of writing would be enough and maybe the most satisfying thing I would ever do. But I didn't realize that hearing from readers would be so so amazing.
It's a good feeling.
It's a good, yeah.
Knowing you can
I don't know who thinks it's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
But I guess I just didn't expect that anyone would ever say stuff like that to me. So
it's overwhelming, or
yeah.
Another question: is there a planet you would like to live on, except the Earth?
Except Earth, yeah. Well, no, because they would all kill us. But I do think the incredible size of Jupiter, which is like so absurdly large that it would be terrifying to behold. I'd like to see it up close. That would be cool. But I wouldn't want to live there. Yeah. Earth's pretty good.
Have you ever thought about continuing writing the Divergent series?
Not really. I feel like it's pretty done. The way I ended it is an ending. I'm sure you're all very pleased.
Are you gay friendly?
Am I what?
Gay friendly?
Yes. Yeah. I know you guys had a thing today. I hope I can't say anything about it, can I? That's like illegal? Yeah.
What music do you like?
What music do I like?
Music, yeah.
I like anything that is inspiring for writing. So this extends to anything from like Lady Gaga to like other music. I don't know. It's not just Lady Gaga. But I was listening to an alt-J album today. I really like them. I used to listen to heavy metal in high school. Yeah.
Metallica.
Not so much anymore because I can't focus while it's on, but I do appreciate it. So I really will listen to pretty much anything except for classical music. Makes me very stressed out, so I don't listen to it. Which my husband studied music in college for a little while, for half of college, and this is like, I feel like I'm betraying him by not liking it, but I just can't.
Isn't it difficult to write on Lady Gaga soundtrack, or no?
Depends what you're writing. Should we answer one of mine?
Why was Chicago an experiment to test the factions? Sorry.
No. Sorry. Because I like this one. What do you think about Romanians? Do you know Romanians always want to know what you think about Romania? Which makes sense. I love it here, obviously. I keep coming back. This is my 4th time. In like 7 years, so that seems like, that's almost once a year that I come here. I love it, yeah. I don't know how to answer what do you think about Romanians. I think every time I come here, I remember that Americans are like overly friendly, you know, like, and very grateful all the time. This is some people have been joking with me about this all week, that Americans are either they're very grateful and they're very thankful all the time. So when I first came here, my husband's uncle, who lives here, and is the reason that we initially came here, he said, you can say please or you can say thank you, but don't say both, it's too much. So I always have to remember this, like, don't be that American. It's hard though, because that's what I am. Anyway, I love how I think there are a lot of deep thinkers here. Even no matter where you go, you'll find them. And just that this many people come out to a book-related or writing-related festival is like amazing to me. So I'm continually impressed by how.
Well, Iași is a special place for
I've
readers. FILIT is
it's a special
case.
Special thing, yeah. I'm noticing.
Do you think the society we live in encourages people to focus on a single quality? Is this the reason you created the factions in Divergent?
Yeah, I think what we do really is that we put other people into these categories, right? And we give them a label. And we say, everyone who has that label is the same, and I know exactly who they are. And that's just a lie. That's not true, and it makes it easier to do bad things to them, is essentially. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're experiencing now, here, with this thing I'm not going to talk about. But anyway, I think people are complicated, but it's hard. It's hard to have empathy for them. So we'd rather dismiss them, and it makes it easier when we've put them into a box. So, yeah.
Yeah, but
we
maybe
do this.
Too easy, yeah, to put people in boxes. Mm-hmm. A good question. What would you say to someone to convince them to read your books? To convince them to read your books?
I am terrible at convincing people to read my books. If you like,
Pick me.
it's sci-fi and action. There's romance too. I'm terrible. Yeah, I don't know. Yep. Depends on who I'm talking to and what they like. Oh boy. Okay.
Your favorite faction from Divergent is Dauntless, maybe.
Yeah, it's probably Dauntless. Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah. Should I pick one?
How would you describe Romania? Sorry.
No, I didn't pick one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's your turn. Your turn.
No, what were you gonna ask? I didn't find one.
I'm very focused on.
I know.
reading.
You're mentally translating, so I'm impressed. What? Oh, but did you have one? Because I don't have one.
How would you describe Romania if someone asks you?
How would I
A
describe
few
it?
words, yeah.
I don't know. Usually say it's a beautiful place. And no, I mean, really, I think it's a beautiful place. And one recovering very admirably from a really difficult time in history. And full of history, really. you know, the people are friendly. I remember the first time I've ever heard anyone say that the American accent is beautiful was here. My husband was in a cab and the driver was like, "You have a beautiful American accent." And Nelson was like, "What?" It's not, we don't love our own accents at home, I would say. Anyway, so I think it's a good place to travel to. I think it's maybe underappreciated by...
For a Romanian, you have a beautiful American accent.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's an American
Yeah.
accent, so I guess if you like it. Yeah.
So it's your turn.
Oh, my turn. Okay. Oh, people are curious about how I ended Allegiant. I can't answer that one. Aw, that's sweet. Okay. How was the transition from Divergent to Carve the Mark? Because they have such different subjects. And how did you get to the subject of fates? So the transition was easy because I started Carve the Mark when I was still finishing up Allegiant. So I was waiting for my editor to give me notes, and I started working on this project for fun. And I just filled it with everything that I loved about sci-fi, about young adult books, about the world, you know, because I got to build these new worlds and these new languages, I just got to pick everything I liked. So it was the most fun I've ever had making a book. So the transition was easy that way.
And it's interesting to talk about the language being
Carve the Mark?
spoken in Carve the Mark. Because you told me there are some Hungarian influences.
Yeah. So when I came to Cluj, you know, Cluj is close to Hungary. You know.
Too close.
Usually I have to explain these things to people, so I'm like, you don't have to explain that part. Anyway, there's lots of Hungarians in Cluj, and those are the people a lot of the people I made friends with when I was there. So that's why I didn't learn a lot of Romanian for a while, because they were all speaking Hungarian to each other. And you know, it's very hard to learn Hungarian. I don't know if you've tried. Probably not. But anyway, so it's unlike any language I've ever heard. Like, Romanian was familiar because it's a Romance language, so it has a lot of the same roots as French, which I took in high school, and some things in common with English, so it was more familiar. Hungarian was so strange, and maybe not what we'd usually think of as a beautiful language if you hadn't heard it before, because you don't understand, you know, how it works in your mind. But I fell in love with it. More specifically, I fell in love with how in love with it they are. So they're always laughing at puns that I don't understand because of the way the words work. And I think that's very funny to watch. It's rare to meet people who love their language so much. So anyway, I took it as the sounds from it, some of the sounds from it. And then the name Akos is how I say it, but I don't think that's how it's pronounced in Hungarian. But I took that name from Hungarian, and then that's the only name I actually just...
You transformed it into your
yeah,
own...
so I could say it. Because they have sounds that if you haven't learned how to make them, by the time you're, 7 years old, you'll never be able to make them. Like the G, it's a G, D, Y. This is the best I can do. I've been practicing for years. Anyway, so it captured my heart in a special way. So, and Romania did too. So, I put pieces of Romania
We'll
too.
check the next books.
Yeah. Well, really, because I think every city I've been to here, all 2 of them, has these very old buildings, and then the kind of brutalist, like communist era buildings, and then new ones. So it feels like all of history is on the surface. And I love that. And I know, we're like, this is never going to happen. And I loved it so much that I built, in Carve the Mark, the people we spend the most time with are the Shotet, and I made their city like Cluj, I think, in my mind, is what it looks like. It has all these layers of time and, history in it.
What do you do when you don't have inspiration to write a new book?
Oh, what do? I don't know. I read. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
What would you recommend for a young writer at the beginning?
Oh, for young writers, I think it's important to have a habit of writing. It sounds obvious, but I think a lot of times you're in school, you have a lot of pressure on you to do a lot of different things, but if you don't learn how to write when it's difficult to write, it'll be hard to keep doing it for the rest of your life. So if you want to be a writer, then you have to learn how to write on a regular basis. So I say not every day necessarily, but regularly. Also, it's important to get some critique from someone that you trust, have them read your work, tell you what they think honestly and hopefully nicely, because, you're just starting. You don't need to hear the harshest thing. Anyway, so I think that is also important to grow.
Have you ever heard about Eminescu?
No.
Never heard about Eminescu?
No.
Have you ever heard about Shakespeare?
Yes.
Of course.
He writes in
Eminescu
English.
is our national poet.
Oh.
It's the most important.
Now I'm ashamed.
We've been told.
You remember I told you I was terrified of embarrassment?
Any favorite music band or foreign language?
Favorite foreign language?
Yeah.
Oh, I like all.
Hungarian, yeah.
Hungarian, yeah. But I like Romanian too. I've been learning it since I've been here. I keep asking people to pronounce the I with the hat, We don't, and it's hard for me to roll my R's because, we don't. I can do it, but it takes so much focus. So it's been a real challenge to me. But I really just love languages. If I could magically give myself any skill, it'd probably be just speaking any language, because I only know English because in America, it's so big, it's kind of hard to get anywhere where someone speaks a different language from you. So it's hard to learn. You can only learn so much in a school. I took 6 years of French, and I can still only say, that I like cheese. Like, that's all I remember.
Fromage.
J'aime le fromage.
Fromage.
Oui.
Fromage. We had fromage yesterday evening.
Good, yeah.
On the stage. What would you say to your younger self?
To my younger self. Be kind to yourself, to other people. Yeah. I was just very harsh. Should I pick one? Okay. I don't want to, you're running this show. How many times did you read your books? So many times. Yeah, I don't know, 100 times more, I don't know. Depends on how much revision it took. So the book I've read the least is The Fates Divide, the second Carve the Mark book. And it was because, not to brag, but it didn't require as much editing as other books I've written. Which is, my editor said, "Is this how it's going to be from now on?" And I said, "No." This is a fluke. So.
How did you react when you first saw a stranger reading your book, a book of yours?
So it's first excitement, like, oh my God. And then fear, oh no. Do I have to do something now? Should I go up to them and talk to them about it? I never do.
What inspired you to write Carved Mark?
It's hard to think of a point of inspiration for Carve the Mark. It wasn't as direct as Divergent. But when I was 11, wrote a story that was a little bit like Lord of the Rings. But in it was a young man who had been kidnapped by these evil, people. And then he comes back and he's different because he's gone through something difficult. So that story, I tried to take that character and put him into every story I wrote for 10 years, probably. And it never worked. And then with Carve the Mark, one of the keys was to make the people who took him not so evil, that you have to have nuance there, like it has to be complicated.
But why it was so important, this returning and this changing for you?
I don't know. I think that's something that's in Divergent too. That she leaves and she goes through something difficult and then she comes back and you see how she interacts with her family again. It's fascinating to me. I don't know why. I guess that's what growing up is, right? You leave in some way, even if not physically, to become an adult. And in some ways, you define yourself by how you are distinct from your family and how you grew up. And you have to present yourself to them as a different person at some point. And it's very difficult, but it's important for becoming your own person. So maybe I am fascinated by it because it's so common. Yeah.
Are you going to write dystopian literature forever?
Well, I don't think of Carve the Mark as dystopian. So, no.
No, thank you.
No, I enjoyed it a lot. And maybe one day I'll write another one, but because who knows? But the next project I have coming up I have an adult sci-fi fantasy coming up that I'm writing. So it's about young people. Well, it's about they're adults now, but when they were young, they defeated a kind of like dark lord, dark figure, and now they're having to deal with the aftermath of it. So that's my next project. So not dystopian, but always sci-fi or fantasy, I'm finding.
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? Oh.
Divergent.
No.
Allegiant.
I like, yeah, clearly Allegiant. I like Divergent, but my favorite movie is probably Wayne's World. Do you guys know this movie? It's a comedy. It's very strange, but I loved it as a child, so it has a lot of nostalgic value.
Are you related somehow with Philip Roth?
No. Nope. There's a lot of people named Roth in the world. It's a very German and Jewish name. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, this one's in Romanian. I can't read that one. Yeah. Oh. Why did you choose to end the third book the way you did? I'm rephrasing. I should answer this because so many people asked it. I'll try not to give anything away, but I think basically what happens at the end of the first book defines what will happen for the rest of the series, which is that Tris loses her parents. They believe so much in sacrifice, and they give that gift to her. And for the rest of the series, she's trying to understand what she believes about what they did, what she believes about what they valued, and does she believe it too, And so the end of the third book is the answer to that question. And it was a question that had to be answered. And that was the way I chose to answer it. So I know that's a little vague, but if you know what I'm talking about, hopefully it makes sense to you. But I know it's not everyone's favorite ending, obviously. But I still like it.
Do you write for yourself or for the readers?
I think I write for myself because I think you have to. Because the readers are, a lot of people. And this, so...
Invisible.
Yeah, and if you think about them while you're writing, it's paralyzing. You can't think about how everyone is going to react to your work. So I write for myself knowing that other people will like the things that I like. Maybe not as many as with one book as another, but still it will find its readers. So I please myself first, and I try to trust that I'm not alone in the universe.
Because we talked some earlier about that desperate need for writing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Could you associate some songs with your trilogy?
Oh, some
A
songs.
song for each book from Divergent series?
Yeah, oh man. Oh, I'm gonna forget what they're all called.
Interesting
Yeah.
exercise, yeah.
There's a song, there's a metric. You know metric? I don't know. Yeah? Okay. One of their songs is what I associate with Divergent. I don't remember what it's called. It's great. I didn't even bring my phone out here, so I can't even. Anyway, I would sing it for you, but I'm terrible, so I'm not gonna do that. Insurgent, what did I listened. This is embarrassing. I listened to a Linkin Park song when I was writing Insurgent. It was called The Catalyst is the song, so I guess I associate that song with it. Oh boy. Linkin Park is cool, but it's just what I listened to when I was in 7th grade, so it's, anything you listened to at that age, you're always gonna be embarrassed about. I don't know why. And then Allegiant was, I listened to a Florence and the Machine song. I forgot the title of it, but actually that whole album, I think it's Ceremonials, yeah. Anyway, What the Water Gave Me was one of them, but there's a few. Anyway, it's basically all like ballads, like power ballads. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think vampires are divergent?
Do I think vampires are divergent? I don't believe in vampires, Romanians. You can't trick me.
Don't you believe in Dracula land?
No.
Transylvania?
I mean, I believe Vlad the Impaler probably existed, but not Dracula. Mm-hmm. I have been to Tugumureș. So.
But you like a lot Wise Blood.
Yeah. But there's
Any
no vampires
connection
in
between?
that. Oh, someone asked me how I feel about Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I don't know. She basically helped to create the young adult book genre. So I feel a debt of gratitude to her. And I, like many people, was completely absorbed by Twilight. So I got nothing bad to say, guys.
It's difficult to become a writer.
Is it difficult?
It's
well, anyone can be a writer as long as you're writing. So it's difficult to be published by a big-time publisher, which I think is what people usually mean when they ask that. But I don't know, persistence, I think, is the quality that separates people who get published from people who don't. So, I don't know. A certain level of talent is involved in writing, but a lot of it is just hard work.
It's difficult to get a lot of money from writing.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the writers I know work a full-time job and then they write on the side. So that's just the reality of it. That's why I say, when people, occasionally an author will get accused of, oh, you only write YA for the money or whatever. It's like, that is hilarious because it is the worst way to make money that I've ever heard of, unless you get lucky, which you can't count on. So you have to love writing to be a writer.
If Nelson told you he didn't like your books,
Oh,
how would you
I would
react?
fall into depression, probably. Yeah. I mean, maybe he secretly doesn't like them and he's just lying. This occurs to me all the time. Anyway, yeah, I would probably throw that book out.
It's your turn.
Oh, it's my
to
turn,
pick
okay.
Up one, please.
You tell me when we gotta stop. All right. Aren't you afraid that you have already everything? You already have everything. No. Is there any way to have everything? I also think this question presumes that having things is the goal, which I guess I don't think it is.
What is your favorite Romanian dishes?
My favorite Romanian dish?
Dish, yeah.
Oh. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what's Romanian, what's Hungarian, and what's Polish, because my family is Polish, and some of the foods have overlap. But I love stuffed cabbage. Is that Romanian?
Sarmale?
Maybe?
Sarmale?
I don't know.
Cabbage rolls?
Cabbage rolls? Yeah, yeah.
Cabbage rolls, yeah.
I love cabbage. I do. Yeah. Do you guys have borscht here? Is that a thing? Yeah. I also love borscht. I know. Some people are like, ugh, what's wrong? Okay. You have? I have ideas for a book. Where do I start? You start with one scene, and then you write another scene. So the way I finished my first book is I just wrote every scene that I had an idea for, even if they weren't in order or if I didn't know how to get from one to another. And then I figured out how to get from one to another, one by one, until it felt like almost a story. And then usually by that point, you know how to fill in the rest. So the idea of writing an entire book is very scary, but just writing one scene and then another scene and then another scene, it's not so scary. So make a list of every idea for a moment or a piece of action that you have in mind and just write all of them. That's my advice.
Do you believe in destiny or in free will?
Oh. I know. Whoa. See, Romanians. Deep thinkers. I think I believe that, so I explore this in Carve the Mark, that every character, or a few characters have fates. There's these oracles who predict the future, but really they don't predict the future. They see many possibilities all the time. So that's kind of what I think of destiny. Destiny is the consequence of free will that we see from a different vantage point. We don't see it, but anyway. So, I don't know. Maybe I believe in something in between, when we don't know what it is or how to express it.
Do you believe in inspiration as a writer?
Like divine inspiration?
Yes, a sort of being inspired.
Yeah, I mean, how else do you get ideas? You know?
Yes.
But yeah, I do believe sometimes ideas just hit you out of nowhere, or you have a dream. Famously, Twilight was inspired by a dream. I've never had dream inspiration for a novel, but I think some people do. Usually for me, inspiration happens by reading Wikipedia pages until I find something interesting. Yep.
There is in Cambridge Creative Writing Handbook a long list of rules about writing, and one of these rules says inspiration doesn't exist.
Oh.
So maybe working is more important than waiting for inspiration.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think you can't work your way into ideas all the time. Sometimes you can. Brainstorming is part of that, but sometimes it just doesn't work. So it's mysterious what happens in the mind.
How important is divergent way of thinking in your personal life?
The divergent way of thinking. I think it's probably essential to writing, because the first ideas I have, like the immediate ones, are the worst ideas, because they're the easiest ones to reach for. So what that requires is thinking about something differently, maybe from the side, upside down.
Outside the box, yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box.
So the second and third, fourth, fifth ideas, those are usually the good ones. If you're lucky, the second, but usually no. So you have to think a little differently in order to come up with anything interesting. Let's see. What did you like the most when you were a teenager besides writing? Well, as previously discussed, I barely liked anything. But I was in choir, which is funny to think about now. And yeah, that's what I did. I did debate. You guys do debate here in school? Ever? Yeah. I did that for a little while. I wasn't very good. A lot of mine are the same question, so I think I'm out.
Could you imagine a world without books?
No.
We have a novel of Ray Bradbury,
Yeah,
actually.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Sounds terrible.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the true dystopia. Fahrenheit 451, 451, whatever.
What was your first reaction when you first met Shailene and Theo James?
Oh.
And Kate Winslet, of course.
Yeah, I know. Well, she's a separate case, but when I met Theo and Shailene, my first reaction, I'm going to be honest with you, is, wow, they're short. So they're not short, actually. Shailene Woodley is one of the taller actresses in Hollywood, I think, because she's like 5'7", 5'8", which is, I don't know. I am 6 feet. How tall are you? I don't know. Yeah, I know.
No, in feet.
Yeah, I know. Who knows feet is a stupid way of measuring. But it's the only one I know. Anyway, so she's tall, but I'm just very tall, is what I'm trying to say. And Theo James and I were of a height, same height, but he is so thin and muscly, but like small. They made me feel very big, both of them. Kate Winslet, though, I mean, I've been watching her in movies since I was a child. So when I saw her, and she has this presence, you know, she walks in and everyone looks at her. And she is very funny. And I played it cool talking to her. And then I sat down and laughed hysterically for like 5 minutes because it was just too much. It was cool. Yep. Yeah.
The same question.
Yeah.
It's the same question about casting of Divergent. What's the coolest thing you received from a fan?
Oh. Any art that I get is always cool. So there's a little drawing of Triss someone gave me once. And she looks, you know, because in the book, she's described quite honestly as not traditionally pretty. And obviously in the movie, she's gorgeous because she's Shailene Woodley. But I love that little drawing because it's it's just a little picture of her looking like an actual 16-year-old girl and also one that's not traditionally pretty. And I put it in my office because, I don't know, it just captured her so well. And it's a really beautiful drawing anyway. So I really love anything I get, but the art is always the most amazing because I don't imagine things very clearly. And so when I see someone else put so much detail into something, it brings it to life for me.
Could you name a book title that changed you, that touched you a lot?
Oh, a book that changed me. I mean, I can name a lot, but I'm trying to think of a good one. I sounded like I was about to have an answer, didn't I? The book Gilead by Marilyn Robinson did change me a lot. It's a really beautiful portrait of a person, and I had never read a book where I just loved the main character, like in a real, not like, oh, I love that guy, but like you feel like you know him. John Ames is his name. You feel like you know him in all of his flaws and his good things, all of them together. And I don't know. I never realized a character could be that real to me. Like, well.
It's late.
I know.
It's getting late.
I was gonna say. I feel like
you're going to spend one more week in Romania.
Yes.
It's a secret or?
No.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be on Instagram, so you'll find out eventually. But yeah, I'm going to Cluj. So.
Cluj-Napoca.
Yeah.
So that's all for tonight.
So it's la revedere to Iași.
Thank you very much, Veronica Roth.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Thank you, Iulian Tănase. Cine vrea autograf, cartonașele de la voluntarii FILIT și vă întoarceți la scenă, unde Veronica vă așteaptă pentru autografe. O singură carte, da? Vă mulțumim. Noi ne vedem mâine seară, ultima seară FILIT aici pe scena Teatrului Național din Iași. Vă mulțumim.